Welcome to the Brothers War EDH. My name is Chris. I'm a legendary creature. Next, over there we got Ryan, who is my background.
Wow.
Today we are going to be going into the top 10 black cards of the Brothers War. And we're going to start with a shout out. The first card we have on our list is Overwhelming Remorse as our shout out. This is a 5 mana instant that says, so this is a 5 mana card, 1 black, 4 colorless. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your graveyard. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Now this card is a common.
Yeah.
But how powerful is this card really? When you think about it, how many creatures do you have to have in your graveyard for this to be a really good card? I mean, I would want this card, this effect, to exile target creature or planeswalker at instant speed to cost at rate probably 2-3 mana. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get this to 1, it's insane. I mean, it's literally a better Swords to Plowshare.
It's just competing with like other effects that are either free or, I mean, you know, like what is it? I think about like Murderous Cut, for example.
Sure.
You know, you delve away. I mean, because that's just delving away cards. It's not even counting just creatures. If it said creature, if it just said like cards in your graveyard or something like, which that might be too strong.
But Murderous Cut is destroy. This is exile.
That's true, and you also get to exile Planeswalker.
Yeah, you get to exile Planeswalker too, which for there is Planeswalker commanders now.
Yeah.
So I mean, especially in a mill deck or even a creature heavy deck.
Yeah, creature heavy with like mill, like a Sir Conrad.
Yeah, something like. I mean, this card just seems sneaky good if your deck can support it. This isn't a card that I would try to build around, but this is a card that I would look at the deck list, I would look at the creature count, I would look at, you know, your mill, like your synergies, and then be like, hey, can this card fit in this deck? And I think that if it can, even if you cast it at 3 mana instant speed, it's not embarrassing. 2 mana, that's only 3 creatures in your graveyard, so I mean, like, it's really not that hard to make it a better Swords to Plowshare in black.
Yeah, it could be like a 1, but like what you said, you know, even like 2 mana. The 2 mana seems also pretty good.
Yeah, it's
exile a creature or a planeswalker at instant speed. So going into number 10 on our list, it is Transmogrance Crown. It's an artifact equipment, 2 mana. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw a card. You can equip it for 2 or just 1 black.
So the thing that I think about here, I mean, a lot of people want to think it's kind of like
it's like a poor man's skull clamp.
Yeah, poor man's skull clamp, but it's a lot worse because the most important thing about skull clamp is 1, draw 2 cards, but 2, that it gives your creature -1
it just kills it.
toughness. Yeah. So it's easy to fit in the token decks. Obviously, we know the power of Skull Clamp. But this card right here, I mean, it's still fairly powerful. I mean, when a creature dies, draw a card. Or when a creature dies, draw a card. And if you're in a black deck, I mean, you just equip for 1. Yeah. I just think there's better options for card draw in black. But, I mean, it's a decent card. I mean, I would probably run it in some sort of, you know, I know that Mardu has got good equipments. If you're running some sort of like Arden with black, I mean, it's fine. So next at number 9, we have Gurgling Announcer. This is a 3 mana 1/3 for Phyrexian Horror, 2 colorless and a black. It's got flying. When you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Gurgling Announcer. When Gurgling Announcer dies, return another target creature with mana value less than or equal to his power from the graveyard to the battlefield. Ryan, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2/2 or is it a 1?
It's a 1/3. 1/3 flyer.
Okay, so it's a 1/3 flyer. So, I mean, for one, you know, I feel like a lot of people look at the draw to get the counters, but if you know, let's say you're playing like a +1/+1 counters deck that has black and this is in there. I mean, really, that, you know, if you can just stack a bunch of counters on them, maybe there's a synergy where it's like it like enters with like an additional +1/+1 counter, so it just enters already with them on there. Yeah. And then, you know,
I mean,
it seems like one of those cards where you can probably loop this if you if you're able to get more counters on it like initially, but also too, if you're in a black blue deck, if you're drawing like cards on maybe like some like reanimator lists where you're drawing cards a lot still, and this thing just gets big, then it could be in something like that. But by itself as a 1/3, I mean, you're returning what like a 1/1 to the battlefield, like there's a lot
mana
of
value less.
Sorry, mana value. There's a lot of good 1-drops out there. So.
A lot of good 1-drops. Also, I mean, it doesn't have to be +1/+1 counters. Just when it dies, equal to his power. So I mean, if you buff your creatures, then it would get a higher mana value creature. I mean, you buff it once and you get most of it. Like I said, like we talked about before, like there's a lot of 1-drops that are being ran. There's a lot of 2-drops and a lot of 3-drops commander. So like, you get this thing to 3 power, let's say supernatural stamina or something like that before it dies.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
I mean,
because it just comes back to right.
It just comes back.
It's good synergy.
Yeah. Another thing to note that it's a horror. Horrors are becoming popular over the last year in Magic. So yeah, there's some support here.
Yeah, for sure. Going into our number 8 spot, it is Wire Surgeons. It is a 6/5 for 6 mana, 4 and 2 black with Fear. Each artifact creature card in your graveyard has Encore. Its Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. When I first saw this card, I was like, man, this card's really good. But then Chris brought up how it's specifically artifact creatures. Yeah. If it was just artifacts, this card would be kind of insane. But
or just creatures.
Oh yeah. Or just creatures. Yeah. But artifact creatures, once again, it's gonna depend on the kind of deck that you have. Like this would work well in that new Warhammer mono black deck.
Mono black artifacts is becoming a thing, so this could actually see an increase in value as sets progress. Yeah,
this is definitely gonna be a slam dunk in there, and
also a good reanimate target. The thing is, like, you just got to think about what artifact creatures are you trying to encore. I mean, the one that we thought of was Mere Battlesphere, but then again, you got to pay the mana cost and stuff. So I mean, it's got some applications, but overall, it's just a fine card.
Yeah.
Next on our list at number 7, we have Gixxian Puppeteer. This is a 4 mana 4/3 Phyrexian Warlock creature. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Whenever Gixxian Puppeteer dies, return another target creature with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. So this is like the card we talked about earlier, Gurgling Announcer, except a little bit better. When drawing your second card each turn, both of these cards make Phyrexian Arena better, which has been falling out of favor as kind of a little slower value engine. But I mean, hey, this is you're gonna if you have these effects in your deck, you're gonna want this card. So and then return another target creature with mana value 3 or less in the graveyard to the battlefield. Pretty powerful effect for 4 mana.
Yeah, it's cool that there's no hoops for returning the 3 CMC creature. It's just when it dies, right?
Yeah.
And drawing a second turn. I mean, imagine if you're playing some group slug deck or something like that, where you're just drawing cards on everybody's turn, and then this thing is out there, and what's that 8-point life swing on a turn cycle. I mean it's
if you have a way to do that.
Yeah, it's a clock right there.
I mean, Sheoldred seems at very the new Sheoldred, is opened up a new archetype for black. You don't really see that kind of style of gaining life in your command zone like that in mono black. So this looks a little bit like it's kind of fits into that shell. Yeah. So drawing cards in black.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Moving on to our number 6 spot for our list, it is Wreck Hunter. It's a 2 mana, 2 black human artificer, 2/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, choose target player. You create a tap Power Stone for each non-land card in that player's graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. This card is very, it's kind of higher up there because I feel like that you can sneak this in if someone's doing some some like aristocrat stuff. You know, you can just slam this out, get like, you know, get some mana rocks. But then again though, power stones, we keep going back to power stones. Is like it only really works if you're doing more like artifact synergy, because they only work for artifacts.
Which again, they're printing more support for the black the mono black artifact builds. And you know, usually Wizards likes to do this thing where they they open up a new archetype and then they start supporting it as sets go. So yeah. Another reason why we put this on here is because it has potential to be more powerful than it is right now.
Right.
Next on our list, we have Transmogrants Altar. This is a 3-mana artifact that has pay a black and tap, sacrifice a creature to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. Pay 2 and tap to sacrifice a creature to create a 3/3 colorless zombie artifact creature token that you can only activate as a sorcery. See, this card I feel like is very powerful, especially in token builds, because being able to just generate 3 colorless mana for a creature is I mean, we all know how good Culling the Weak is, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're adding 4 black for a black, but still being able to do this repeatedly, I could see this card being pretty powerful.
Yeah, and you know, it's also like it's just any creature. So whatever like fodder you have, it's, you know, losing out on like one creature to ramp out into like a big spell. Like, right. You know, I can see like lines where people try to get this in, and then, you know, I mean, they slam like a Bolus of Citadel or something like that. That's a Phyrexian Altar right there. Like, you know, it's 3 mana is good. And like what you were saying, if you can do it over and over again, you're just getting a ton of value.
Yeah, I mean, being able to like Bitter Blossom every turn, being able to be up 2 extra mana a turn for nothing really, especially if you're playing low color black decks. Right. You know, it's not taking away too much from your color pips. I think that it's pretty solid addition, and you get to create colorless zombie artifact creature tokens if you want to. Yep. Zombie is a relevant creature type too. So yeah, I really feel that zombie decks really want this, but I think other decks that just want to use this as a value engine, other token decks, can use this as well. Yeah,
it's a pretty decent card. Moving on to number 4, we have Astronaut Flesh Mechanist. It's a 1-mana 1/1 with Death Touch. Whenever Astronaut Flesh Mechanist attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a tap Power Stone. Pay 5 mana to exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped 3/3 colorless zombie artifact creature token.
Yeah, this card to me, you know, when you look at 1-mana creatures, you have to really think about the scale of power that they're trying to put on here, right? Mm-hmm. Like Ragavan pushed, you know what I mean? Right. Ragavan's obviously pushed. Esper Sentinel's pushed. But this card right here is also, in my opinion, a pretty pushed 1-drop as well, because not only is it a relevant creature type, it's 1 black mana, it's got Death Touch. You get to basically ramp in a way. I mean, you do have to sacrifice a creature. But if you have fodder lying around, this is a 1-mana way to be able to create some sort of mana engine. And then you have the ability to exile a creature from your graveyard for 5 mana and create a tap 3/3 color zombie artifact token, but that doesn't say only at sorcery speed, so you can hold up mana and be able to activate this, you know, at the end of someone's turn or something like that. So a lot of text for 1 mana. I think that it's a pretty powerful card.
Yeah, you know, you obviously need the creature, you know, to create the Power Stone that's tapped. But like we were saying, like it's 1 mana, and like, you know, this can like set you up, like, you know, maybe the Power Stone, you know, you have some synergy with like, you know, some like artifact synergy or something like that. But also too, you get to make zombie artifact creature tokens, and like that's without even like tapping it. So you can do this, you know, let's say you just have just like a lot of mana lying around, like, you know, late game, it's like, oh yeah, well, you know, I'll just create 2 I mean 10 mana is a lot, but, you know, 2 3/3s at the end of somebody's turn, and then go to your turn, and then you can use them as you please.
Yep. Next at 3, we have Misery Shadow. 2 mana, 2/2 Shade. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Pay 1, Misery Shadow gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I love this card. The reason why I love this card is I love stacks. You know me. I'm a hate bears stacks man at heart. And I owe that. I owe it to my background guy over there, Ryan.
Yep.
You know, he really got me into thinking about stacks a long time ago, and I just love the archetype. This is a really good hate bear that also has a nice threat of activation, a way to be able to break parity over Rule of Law because you get to sink mana into this card. So like if you can't cast 2 spells a turn, you have something to do with your mana.
Right.
This is what I would run in a hate bears deck for sure. And it's in black, which is not in white, which is where most of the hate bears come in. So it's starting to increase the quantity of hate bears in other colors, which is what I like to see, because I would like to eventually see maybe some sort of red black hate bears kind of deck that, you know, has Magus of the Moon, Misery's Shadow, Dothi Voidwalker, Opposition Agent, something like that. We're starting to get more and more, and I'm liking the design on this card.
Yeah, it's not just pertaining to like white for those like stacksy effects.
Yeah.
I think that black has probably gotten a lot like more than probably the I mean besides white because white always has this, but
green has a lot.
Yeah. Green has.
I mean, it's got the best hate bear in all of Magic. So Collector Roof.
Is it better than Draenith Mastery?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, you're probably right.
I think Collector Roof for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that card is really annoying.
This is not a collector. This is not a Collector Roof podcast though. So let's move on to number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
This is a great card. I love this card. It would be number 1, but we have another spicy one at 1. But Hostile Negotiations. 3 mana, 3 colorless and a black for an instant. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face down pile. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face down pile. Look at the cards in each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile in your hand and the other into your graveyard, you lose 3 life. This card is nuts. The reason why is because 1, it's a cool little mini game. You gotta love that. 2, you're looking at the top 6 cards of your library and you're getting to draw 3 cards basically for 4 mana, instant, speed, and black. That is very powerful. You know, usually the going rate for blue draw at instant speed is 4 mana, draw 2 cards, right?
Right.
But this is, you're able to look at the top 3. You could pick either the best pile or the worst pile and be like, oh, you know, you choose which one I get to put. I mean, that's the worst part of it, is that your opponent chooses, but 4 mana, draw 3 cards at instant speed at base is, I mean, 4 mana, look at the top 6 cards of your library, draw 3 cards at base is just very powerful. And this, I really like this card a lot.
Yeah, it said that one of the piles is face down, right?
Yeah, well, both of them are face down.
Mm-hmm.
You choose one of them to turn
one
up. Yeah, and then they could be like, oh, do I like this pile more than the, you know, possible pile under here? You know.
Yeah, it could also be like a fake out, like you reveal the one.
You reveal the one that
you don't want.
Well, no. You reveal the one that has the card that has a more powerful pile, but the card that you want is in the face down pile. You know what I mean? So like,
there's
a lot of cool stuff.
It gives you, as the player casting it, like it gives you a lot of like ways to get the card that
very political card.
because you have 6 cards, so it's like, okay, well, you know, I mean the card that you probably want it's going to be in like one of the piles, but you know, you can be able to like make some like mind games and go on with that. So it's a wacky card. I remember making this list. I didn't even have it on my list because I didn't even read it fully. But then Chris brought it. I was like, wait, this card's actually
I mean,
kind of good.
The higher power you go, the higher card quality you're gonna have.
Yeah,
and so both of the piles are probably gonna be good. So you're just I mean, and if you're like
look at the top 6, choose one, put in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's powerful.
Because if that was like a sorcery, like I don't know, would that even be on the list if it was a sorcery?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
instant pushes it over the top. Also, the other cards go in your graveyard.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's some synergy. That's some untapped synergy as well. So, I mean, it gets into more politics if you have graveyard synergies, because now you're like, oh, what am I putting in his graveyard and stuff like that. Right. So, it's a really, really cool card.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, moving on to our number 1 spot. You probably already know it is because it's the only black card that's been talked about that hasn't been talked about here. Gixx Yawgmoth Praetor. 3 mana, 3/3. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. 7 mana. Discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among the exile cards this way without paying their mana cost. The second ability is very, very. I think it's very expensive, but it's a very fun ability. But being able to draw cards from your creatures, it's always been a very good ability. One downside though is that it also gives your opponents the opportunity, but that's only if they attack other people that's not you. Mm-hmm. So that's also kind of like it kind of makes it kind of like a pillow fort style card as well.
Right.
Like,
you want to incentivize people to not attack your opponents.
Right.
So the way I look at this card is I'm thinking mono black planeswalkers, man. I mean, what do they want to do? They want to kill your planeswalkers? Oh, well, they're not drawing cards, and I am, because they're swinging my way and they're free to take life, and I'm drawing cards and paying life. And if my planeswalkers are taking the life, I'm not taking the life, which means I could pay more life.
Yeah.
It's probably not the optimal direction, but it seems like the most fun and the most political way to do this The second ability is almost irrelevant. I mean, you're not going to really be activating that too much until maybe the later game. So
it might be like a one shot. You know what I mean? Yeah. You might be able to just cast everything. I mean, you have a full hand, but then again, it's like, is it worth doing it because you're giving your cards away to see? And that's what I don't like about cards like this. It's dependent on what your opponent has in their deck. Because what if it's like 7 lands?
It's true. But also, this doesn't say activate at sorcery speed. So you can hold this up, go 7 mana, end of your turn. I'm going to discard, I don't know, a certain amount of cards, and have a whole hand for next turn. So yeah.
Sounds good to me. It's definitely the number one. It's an
interesting card, and it's definitely a very powerful effect.
Yeah.
So that does it for our top 10 black cards of the Brothers War. If you happen to like this content, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We got more coming to you. We still got a couple more categories. So yeah. I'm a legendary creature, Chris Chapman, and this is my brother, the background, Ryan Chapman, and we hope you enjoyed. We'll see you later.